I should be live. Is my volume okay? It should be fine. Let me check the Lute sound. Yeah, it sounds fine. Cool. All right, so I'm printing out this document. I don't think I have it printed out. If I do, I just haven't found it because I have a lot of stuff. But basically, I'm going to be going over Continuo playing on the Lute, Arch Lute, and Theorbo by Nigel North. So where do I want to start? I think I'm going to skip out a lot of part 1, historical background, practical advice, choosing instruments, and all that stuff, preparing scores. I think I'm just going to start here, preparing scores. So there's going to be page 18, then it goes into repertoire, and then he goes into harmony. So I'm going to go through this, preparing the scores. I might skip out on this for now, and then I'm going to go straight into part 2, harmony and figures. Basically just get me playing. So let's see. This is page 18. Document page 18. Holding the theorbo, right hand technique, preparing scores. When preparing a song or a piece to accompany, particularly the early stages, either 1. Write out your own copy with 3 staffs, 1 for the solo part, a blank second staff for you to write any helpful reminders, and the bass line on the 3rd staff. Or, when playing from a modern edition which has keyboard realization, glue a staff of blank music paper over the realization. Okay. Eventually, you should learn to read from anything, preferably facsimiles of the originals, without the need of the middle staff. Much 17th century and 18th century chamber music was printed in part books, and the basso continuo had no visual knowledge of the parts above him, only oral knowledge. It is safer at first always to read from the score so that you may both see and hear what you're accompanying. When accompanying a singer, always have the words, not just the notes. This will ensure that you know what the song is about and will also be an excellent way to follow the singer, particularly in recitative. Okay, so that's actually really good. Accompanying a singer. The words. Oops. This ensures that you follow the singer. Okay, figures. Figure all your music thoroughly, even if it is very simple. When performing, you need all the help available, and without complete figuring, you may simply forget all the harmony which seems so obvious at home. Build up your own collection of symbols, signs, and which remind you how to spread chords, how to articulate, and which notes to play or not to play. In many ways, more though, preparation and practice is needed for continually playing than a solo piece. Right. Tablature. Free yourself from this as soon as possible and start thinking in real music. When playing from tablature, there is less chance of listening well and following the soloist, and you will be less able to be spontaneous and improvise where necessary. All attention should really be given to the soloist so that you may follow every little nuance of rubato. Phrasing and ornamentation. Rubato, phrasing and ornamentation, and respond to these automatically. Tablature takes you away from this awareness. List of appropriate repertory. Okay, I'm going to skip all that. I'm going to go straight into part 2, right? Is this where it starts? Page 27. Okay. In this chapter, the reader will find all the figures explained, from the simplest 5/3 to complicated figurings, such as 7/4/2. Simplicity has been the aim in trying to describe how all the figures relate to the harmony. No chord is really difficult to and practice makes perfect. All the examples given in notation are written for a lute or arch lute in ordinary G tuning, as this would be the most likely tuning to be experienced by beginners. Proceed from one section to another slowly, making sure that you have thoroughly understood each chord. Common chords. In basso continuo or figured bass, all the numbers written above or below the bass line refer to the intervals of the notes that should be played above the bass notes. A root position chord has a complete figuring of 5/3, right? What is normally, let me see if I can make this a little bit wider so I can zoom in a little bit more. Can I give a custom zoom? Let's see, let's try 130. Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay. 5/3, example 12. But is normally given without figures except when another chord should be expected. Then 5 or 5/3 will be written. 3 alone may also mean a 5/3 chord, but can also tell us to play only the third above the bass. Good. So in this example, we have a C, and we have an E, and a G. Right. And here it is an octave higher. Okay. So then a first inversion chord has a complete figuring of 6/3 and is normally written 6. Example 14. That. Okay, so let's go back to our C chord. We're gonna have this instead. So here's my 6th. Right, so this or that. Oh, did I skip something? Right, example 13. So hang on, let me go back to this one, play it properly. So we have a C. I'm out of tune. Yeah, that C's a little flat, isn't it? No, it's a little sharp. Okay. Can I tolerate it? Maybe, maybe not. Should I tolerate it? No. these are fine. Let's see, it was flat. G was a little flat as well, so maybe I need to readjust the fret. There it is. That's a little more consistent. Alright, so we have that example, and we also have this one. Okay. And then we have this example. A first inversion chord has complete. Right, so hang on, is this without figures? Right, that's just explanation for that. So this. Oh, okay. Normally giving without figures except when another chord would be expected. And then 5 or 5-3 will be written. 3 alone may also mean a 5-3 chord, but it can also tell us to play only the third above the bass. Okay. So what do we have here? So we have C, D. And here we have E. Okay, so it's just telling us thirds all across that figure. Okay, so I'll start here. Okay, that's how you play. I guess this is the 10th, isn't it? The third would be this. Okay, cool. And then example 14. The second inversion chord has a complete figuring of 4/6, and it's normally written as thus. Okay, like this. So basically, here's my E. Like this. So we go from this to this, the first inversion, or this. Or if I want to get all fancy, the whole thing. Okay. One has to learn to build up an instant reaction to figures. To count up from the bass mentally every time would be far too tedious, and everyone develops their own way of understanding and reacting. Try to replace the bass note in its harmonic context. So if you see a 6, know that the bass is the third of the chord, and if you see the 6/4, it is the fifth of the chord. In the end, much facility comes purely from development of the ear, together with understanding of the harmony. All common chords need only 3 notes to be complete. Regardless of the position, if you wish to add any more notes, then duplicate the fifth or tone. Wait, hang on. This is important. All common chords need only 3 notes to be complete, regardless of the position. Right, and know that if you wish to add any more notes, duplicate the fifth or tonic at the octave. Avoid doubling the third. Ah, interesting. tonic at the octave. Avoid doubling the third. God dang it. Can I keep it straight? If, for whatever reason, you can only play one note above the bass, then omit the fifth rather than the third. Right. This is from Theory 1. Okay. When sharp, flat, or natural only is given, it refers to the third of the chord. Okay, which, yeah, I knew that. But, which will be a 5/3 chord. Okay, automatically. When a figure has an accidental, okay, usually be placed besides the figure and not above or below. Accidentals usually placed before the figure, but sometimes found after it. Alright, so hang on, let me look at this first example. Example 16. So the bass note is D, and we have D and an F sharp there. Right? We have a C. Sorry, that's an A, and then that's a D. So that's minor. It's with the sharp. So when I see that, see the sharp, I think this. Okay. And the next one is a G, and I see a flat below it, so that's going to be a B flat. So it should be this. Which is basically that, right? Want to see a natural? Okay, so that's an A. That means C is going to be natural, so it's not going to be an A major, it's going to be an A minor. Okay, so here's A, E, or it's just this. Here it is. This would be normal in the key signature, I guess. I'm doing that. When a figure has an accidental added to it, this will usually be placed beside the figure, not above or below. Example, 7 sharp over 7, or 7 over sharp, is 7 with a sharp third, or a raised third. The accidental is usually placed before the figure, but it is sometimes found after it. Okay? And then for sharp will normally mean 4/3 suspension sharp. Okay, so 4 to the sharp version of the 3. That's in the most perfect cadence, not to be confused with sharp 4. Okay, so to the sharp third is implied. That's what that means. Implied third. Okay. Will normally mean for, okay, not to be confused with sharp 4. See example third. Okay, so let's look at this. So we have this example. We have a fourth above that. So this is a D. So this would be that, right? Right, so okay. Okay. All right, I got it. So sharp. 3, okay. So the G. An augmented interval may be written several ways. 4 sharp. Okay, so that's confusing with this one. 4 augmented, sharp 4. I like this one. 6. Is that a 6 with a dash? Sharp 6. Yeah, it is. Okay. So this one is confusing. Augmented interval may be written as such. Okay, so a sharp 4. So let's look at this example. So we have a G. Right, we have that. And then we have this. Right, okay. So what am I doing here? Okay. So this is changing the chord altogether. Interesting. Sharp 4. Is it really? No, it's not really changing the chord. I mean, it is. I mean, it's okay. So these two voices go up, right? D and G, E and A. The B goes to C sharp. So I go from this to this. Sounds awful. To that. And then I go to, let's see. So that's an F sharp. So this is going to be a D chord. So I go from this. No. So so my C sharp goes down to A to that. Okay, cool. So altogether we have this. What? Let me do that again. Sorry. Okay, that's what it sounds like. Okay. In a diminished interval, 5 flat, flat 5, or a dashed 5. Excuse me. Right, so what do we have here? We have, that's an E. There we go. We have a G and then a C. Right, so it's a C chord in first inversion. Flat 5. Okay, so this is the 6th. That goes flat. Go from that to that. And then we go to that. Is that right? F, C. I guess I should do this E instead. No. Let's do it again. Okay, so that's what we do. In the 7th century, sharp equals major, flat equals minor. 17th century, sorry. This can take transposition much easier than modern notation, in which accidentals can change when transposed. Okay. The natural sign was rarely used until the late 17th century, except when assigned to the note B. Okay, right, hang on, I'm getting ahead of myself here. In the 17th century, sharp equals major, flat equals minor. This can make transposition much easier than modern notation, in which accidentals can change when transposed. Okay, so we're looking at two examples. I'm guessing one of them is transposed version of the other one. Should be. Okay. So we have a major, so G major, right? And G minor. From that to this. Right, meaning the third. Not sharp, it just means major. And then transposed to, what is that? D. Right, to that. To major, to minor. Okay. Was rarely used in the late 17th century, except when assigned the note B. In early 17th century Italy, compound figures were sometimes used. Example 11, 10, 14 equals 4, 3, and 7. Okay. So we have an 11th above my G, which would be right, be that now. That's the 11th, a 4th. Right, okay. To that. Okay, so we go from this. Okay. Two, 1. So 4, 3, 7. Okay, so we go from a 4th to a 3rd, and here we have a 7th. Right, because the 15 is the octave, the quintissima. 2 octaves up. Okay. By 1650, this practice was discontinued, and only figures 2 to 9 were generally used. The player was expected to know at which octave to take the notes. The rhythm of the change in harmony in cadential figure or suspension was indicated by Caccini and other as known in example. That was 22. But this practice faded out with the compound figures. One guide, of course, is to observe the voices and instruments above the bass. These will often give a clear indication of the harmonic rhythm. Normal rhythms will be dealt with in the next chapter, but beware of the following. Okay. So here we have a C. Put a sixth above the C, that's going to be an A. Okay, so this means it changes from 5 to that, right? And then the next one is a D. Well, let's do this one then. So that's one, okay, and then example B. Okay, it's just a realization of that. So yeah, I kind of had it right. Here's an E. Right. Okay. And then C, we have this, okay. So that's an A, 5. Okay, so that's a C. To a sharp 6, which would be right. All right, because that's the 5. To that. Right, whatever. Okay. And then example D, same thing. Now it's just a D chord, D minor rather in this case. That's the 5th, going to the 6th, or in this case it's doing this. Right. There's my dissonance. There's my resolution. Okay, cool. Similarly, the sharp in example 24A may indicate the change of chord implied by example 24. Okay. So I go from a D minor that's right. So in this case, something like that. Okay. Passing notes are normally indicated by a line, which is often an easier way of representing some complicated figures as shown. Okay. Okay, so this is showing that the sharp is pretty much holding throughout all of this. Okay, cool. So we're in major. Right. So for example 26. Okay, so we're gonna keep that sharp held on through that bass note, right? So we have a D again. So this fifth becomes what? A sharp, that's a third. This is the fifth. This would be the sixth now. Okay. Excuse me. I mean decent. Right, so then we have alright, so then so why is it 2? Right, so that's kind of what I'm doing, isn't it? I guess it wants me to do this then. Right. Okay, that makes more sense. That's the octave. Here's the fifth. Here's the third. This becomes a sixth. This becomes a second. This becomes a sharp fourth. And then the sixth. And then it resolves. Okay. Whatever. Let's read the resolution of that on letter C. So right, it does that. And it changes to that. Okay. One may repeat the chord depending on the context, but the important thing to remember is that the line indicates the continuation of the same harmony while the bass moves. Right, got it. Dissonant chords. The dominant seventh is the most important and frequently used harmony. It has 4 positions. Root position is normally written 7. Full figuring is 7-5-3, or sorry, 3-5-7. Ground up. So here's what it looks like. So here's the G, B, D, F. So where's my 7th? It's gonna one it up on top, isn't it? So right here. And I cannot have a D in here. This is close I'm gonna get. And then C. 7s go down, so this should go. That should be resolved like that, okay. Okay, cool. First inversion is normally written in 6-3. Full figuring is 3-5-6, of course. Right, for the 7th version of it. Excuse me, I'm getting tired. I'm gonna pause for a second. I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back, obviously. So let's see, first inversion is normally written 6-3, all figuring is 3-6-5 or 6-5-3 rather. Okay, so here we have B, we have there's an F in there somewhere. Alright, so I have that, and then it resolves to what, a C? Right, and that's first inversion. Okay, so this is the third. And then we go to this. Right. So from this. Yeah, that's correct. I fucked up the thing. Alright, cool. Second inversion is normally written 3-4 or 6-4-3. Full figuring is 6-4-3. Okay. So then we have somebody jumped on briefly. Right. So this one goes from E, right? This is the first inversion C chord. Right, so from this, wait, except it does this. This voicing. And it does. This is D and an F. We go from this. And this. Okay, so we go from this. That's the 7th. And then we go to that. Okay, cool. Alright. Third inversion is normally written 2-4 or 4-2. The full figuring is 6-4-2, often with accidentals assigned to the 2 or 4 depending on the context. Okay, so the first example we have here. I'm blanking out here. All right, so. Alright, so that. Right, so it becomes a seventh chord, but in third inversion. It just does that. Cool. And then this sustains. And then same thing. Okay, that's just a different way of writing that. Okay. The figures may at first appear confusing, but the next chapter will demonstrate how and when these chords are used. Some useful hints. The 6-5 chord can function as a subdominant chord as well as a dominant 7, depending on the intervals between the notes of the chord. Right. The dominant 7th inversion, as represented in example 28, has intervals above the bass of minor 3rd, diminished 5th, and minor 6th. The subdominant 6-5 has intervals of major or minor 3rd, perfect 5th, and major 6th. Both types of 6-5 chords are constructed by adding the 7th of the harmony to a 6-3 chord. I'm going to need to reread that. So, useful hints. The 6-5 chord, alright, so that's first inversion, right? Yeah. Wasn't it? Why am I misremembering it? 6-3 should be first inversion, no? Yeah, first inversion. 4-3. Third inversion is 4-2. What the fuck is this 6-5? The chord 6-5. Okay, where's that 6-5 chord? I don't remember him mentioning this. 6-3. 5-3. The fuck does he mean 6-5? I don't see that anywhere. I wonder if this is a typo. Or did he mean this? First inversion, but leaving out the third. It's a seventh chord. I think that's what he meant. I mean, he is talking about 7 chords here, so. 6-5 chord can function as a subdominant chord as well as a dominant 7th, depending on the intervals between the notes of the chord. Okay. Can function as subdominant or a dominant. Interesting. Right. Okay, so there's major or minor intervals. Okay. Right, because the 7 has to be a minor 7 above the bass in order for it to be dominant. That's right. Okay. So basically this can be like a 4, 7, or a 5, 7. Right. The dominant 7th inversion, as represented in example 28, has intervals above the bass of a minor third, diminished fifth, and minor sixth in relation to the bass, right? Example 28. Right, so this is a B minor third, diminished fifth, and major sixth, minor sixth. Right. Relation to bass note. The subdominant 6/5 has intervals of major or minor third, perfect fifth, and major sixth. Okay, so major sixth. Both types of 6/5 chords are constructed by adding the seventh of the harmony to a sixth. Both types of 6/5 chords are constructed by adding seventh of the harmony to a 6/3 chord. Okay. Cool. Example 31 shows the following. The relationship of the 6 and the 6/5 in the context of the dominant 7th chord and its use as such. Okay, so this is for this. Okay. I think I'm gonna call it a day. Quite a bit to chew on. I'm not so used to reading bass clef, much less standard notation on the lute. So that was quite a bit of mental gymnastics there I did. Cool. Man, I like this book. I dig it. Because I have been using, or rather I was using, Peter Croton's General Bass. This one. This is more for classical guitar. There's some really useful stuff in here as well, but I kind of want to go over something that's a little more for lute, because that's what I'm focusing on right now. This is cool too, being able to do it on guitar, and I'll get there. But first I gotta be able to do it on the lute. And I gotta get this file printed, man. I don't know what the hell is going on with my printer. Anyway, so I guess that's it. Thanks for tuning in.